everyone. This is Defense Politics Asia, and welcome to the DPA panel. And this time around, we are going to be talking about Americans. Uh, or actually, no, Americans is actually the wrong term. Is United Statesians, because Americans actually the both continents. So anyway, I'll throw it over to Alan. Alan,
Yeah,
for
awesome.
him to know. Yeah.
Okay, so the main goal for this stream is really to break down not what everyone internationally knows what America really is, but to allow people to see what the average American thinks about America, right? Because you can go on the news and you can see all these stories about, one country thinks this or does this about America, or America does this in the world stage, but you never really get to see how the average American, whether abroad or at home, really sees America, how has lived the experiences, how we think it's changed over time, et cetera, et cetera. So we've got a series of questions for the panel here. These are people from the West Coast, from the East Coast, from all over. So we're hoping that we can get a pretty broad stroke as well as multiple age groups, so we can see what different generations experienced as they grew up. So before we get started, a quick introduction. My name's Alan. I live in the state of Virginia in the United States. It's on the East Coast. I grew up here my whole life. My family immigrated here, and I'm a first-generation immigrant. I've grown up as a Gen Zer. I'm 21 years old. So I've got that really weird mix of I try to pay attention to what's going on in the world, but it's also a lot of pressure to, conform and stick with what my generation says is the norm. Apart from that, I hope the rest can maybe get expanded out as we continue through the stream. Up next, I guess we'll just go clockwise around the panel. JS, you want to do a quick introduction?
Yeah, JS. I was born and raised in New York City. I live in Seattle now. I am a Gen Xer, and not sure what else I'm supposed to say about myself. That's it for the intro, I guess.
Then going clockwise, Vaun. You need a quick introduction. You're muted, Vaun.
Yeah, it's Vaun. I live in Louisville, Kentucky, and that's kind of the South Mason-Dixon line area.
You and JS are the same generation. You guys are
Gen X.
Probably the going to be the older guys here. And Dan?
All right. My name is Dan Kessel. I'm from Southern California. I guess I'm a millennial because I'm born in 1989.
Yeah.
But I'm currently living in Russia. I live in Siberian territory, and I have a YouTube channel. If you want to see it, my adventures here in Russia, it is Wild Siberia.
And Wyatt is going to be our host. He's pretty badass.
Yeah, hi, I'm Wyatt. I'm from the colony of Singapore of United States. I mean, some say it's a colony. Yeah. These are my masters.
No, that would be the British, man. Come on.
No, we have been taken over. We changed masters. Now we listen to United States. Yeah,
I got you. Before we really dive in to the list of prepared items, quick little side note or kind of side interest fact. I wanted to hear what you guys had to say about the ongoing, because at the time of recording, there's this drama with this balloon violating the United States airspace. And the big news about that is that this is actually the first time that the U.S. airspace has been violated since 2001. And that's a pretty big thing. In 2001, obviously, was 9/11, huge tragedy. But that raises a lot of questions: is what's our government been doing? What do you guys think about it? Do you think it's BS? Do you think it's a false flag? Do you think it's China fucking trolling on us and laughing their asses off the whole time? What do you guys really think about it? JS? Yeah, we'll go clockwise.
Yeah, I don't know if did anyone else get the urge to listen to Nina from Germany's 99 Red Balloons today? I don't know why, but I just couldn't get that song out of my head. Because I'm old enough to remember when that song was in the top 10. Regarding what China was doing, I think none of us can say with it's total pure speculation from at least what I know now. I didn't know that, Alan, about it was the first time our airspace is quote unquote violated. But I mean, to make that comparison is for me is too extreme, because I actually lost friends on 9/11.
I understand.
So I don't see it that way. I think that whether or not the Chinese meant to troll us, it certainly seemed like that's what they accomplished. Whether it was their intent or not, that's how it ended up. We've all seen the memes floating around, right? We looked pretty ridiculous. So maybe they just needed a laugh. I don't know. So
okay. So not really known at the moment, right?
Yeah, unless you guys heard something I haven't, but yeah. All I see is memes.
With Vaun, it's kind of interesting. Vaun, you're muted, but Vaun, it's kind of interesting. The balloon supposedly flew right over the middle of Kentucky, so you got spied on. All your data got collected. Was your phone on?
Yeah.
You're screwed, bro.
That's all right. If I would have saw it, I would have shot at it.
You got too famous.
I mean, that's the one thing everybody I know is like everybody. It was like, why aren't they shooting it down? Why didn't they shoot it down? I mean, people are like, we don't give a shit if it fucking falls in the city. Just shoot the fucking thing down. They didn't care.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't know if it's the first time they've had their airspace violated. I mean, maybe it's the first time they admitted it. But like I said the other night, if you got a beef with the United States, right now is the time to settle your scores. So if you can fly a balloon over the United States and collect all kinds of shit and nobody's going to say nothing, and oh, they shot it down after it went out over the ocean. Well, it's not like it can't transmit the whole time. So it's not like they stopped it from collecting information. They just stopped it from going back to China, probably. I like how they say it can't be steered and shit, but I would bet it could if they wanted to.
Interesting note on that. Some people are saying it can't be steered, but the track it took was actually like against the wind. Like the track it took, if you track
it's like in a big circle, like an oval too. It's like, how's it going to keep doing that?
I have no idea. Dan?
I mean, it looked like something that would collect intelligence like signals, because it looked like a big antenna hanging off the bottom.
SIGINT, man. SIGINT.
I believe that no matter if it's China deployed it or if the United States deployed it, I believe the fact that it was televised and it got to the point where it's being memed, I think that's bad for America. You don't want something like this to be aired. So if it's Chinese, America went the wrong way and made it a big problem and then shot it down. And like there was videos of rednecks, that's my Air Force. Like, it's really embarrassing. So if America deployed it to kind of false flag, then they only did China's job if it was wanting to be China's. So it's just a big mess. It just doesn't make any sense to me why China would do it or why the United States would do it, because it played out so pathetically, but it benefits China more than anybody. That's my opinion.
It reminds me of the drone incident that went into Kinmen. Near Kinmen, where the Chinese drones, is a civilian drone, those small little drones, fly over to the military outpost just next to the border. It's the next island next to Kinmen city. So it's like, and then it created a huge political problem within Taiwan, because it's like how could the Chinese have their drone just fly in and also just have nothing.
Look at South Korea too, when they got hit their airspace, and then didn't somebody get fired over that? And they had to apologize for letting the drone fly all the way down to Seoul and back with nobody doing anything.
That was multiple drones.
Yeah,
that was multiple drones. That was. I swear, when it comes to aerial security, a lot of Western countries and countries like allied with the West, like South Korea, Taiwan, Japan, like them, they've been getting joked on. They've been getting styled on. I mean,
look at all the shit that they're showing now. Everything they're coming out is like, oh, we got these new anti-drone systems from Rheinmetall, and it's like basically just a fancy-looking Gepard and stuff. And it's like, you guys should have been developing this shit already. And really, the Gepard and stuff like that, it's probably good enough for drones. But they don't want to repurpose old guns. They want to build new guns. So, because I mean, there's probably a lot of older stuff that would work good against the drones. I mean, even like those little Humvees with the stingers on them. That's probably better to use against drones than try to shoot down jets and shit with it. or some kind
It
of
does seem
small
like a
missile like
pattern,
that.
right? It does seem like a pattern, right? First they tested Taiwan, then after that North Korea went to test the South Korea, and then now suddenly this balloon, it felt like too coincident, like all these
Yeah.
incursions using not unmanned aircrafts. It just felt a bit convenient to to have all this happening.
I just think
It's
it's
a
odd
loss.
that in the year 2023 that people are getting so freaked out over technically a balloon that can literally paralyze the United States in indecision, like where
Yeah.
they didn't know what to do. And it kind of harkens back to what's going on now in Ukraine, because the idea of, I don't know if it was Vaun who said this in one of the other streams, but how if you get down to it, like the United States, like every military technology that they use always has to be, filled with bells and whistles, when ultimately you just need something really simple to do it. Like the F-35 is a classic example, right? They spent like, I don't know how much one cost, but they still don't fucking work. And
Yeah. Well, it's like the A-10 is a perfectly good platform for 90% of the wars you're going to be in. It's probably not a good platform to go against, tier 1 air defense like in Russia or China, but it's perfectly good for flying over Afghanistan or Somalia or wherever.
No,
the A-10 war was probably the best money the Defense Department ever spent for dollar for like return ROI, I should say.
Yeah.
I think we should get into the balloon thing. It's too much of right now craziness. I want to know what the questions are.
Yeah,
I think you were just
that's fine with me.
Yeah, no, but we're getting it. JS, actually, you brought it up perfectly on time, right? Kind of how the conflict is affecting us, because the first question is, what is the average American's experience with this conflict, right? How does it not only like affect the average American, and by average American, I'm talking about specifically you guys, because we are kind of like that sample of the population, albeit small. We hope ideally we could maybe do this in the future, but more people, whatever. Do you think that, however this conflict turns out, you could theorize one victory, one loss, whatever you guys want to theorize? How do you think it'll really affect the long-term like views of the American people, like on the international stage, how they view themselves on the international stage? So the first question is, how are you guys experiencing the conflict, if at all? And after it's over, do you think it'll have any impacts on what it means to be America on the world stage?
So I got to go first.
Yeah.
Well, I guess that's. I'm trying to think how to answer that succinctly.
No, take your time.
How it's affecting me personally, really not at all. I mean, affecting me. I always have, since childhood, I've always had an interest in history. So that's why I've gravitated to being interested in things like this around the world. But before I forget, I want to say this, because I thought about this when you had posted the possible questions for tonight, the topics. I equate what's going on right now, the Ukraine war, to the way people felt about the what's the word we can use to talk about the thing that caused people not to be able to have to wear masks, how polarizing that was. I kind of see this, like I was talking to a family member just before the stream, actually. Mm-hmm. And they're so pro Ukrainian, it's insane. Like you can't reason with them, and I'm sure you guys have experienced that. So it's gotten to the point where it was similar to the Kuf, where you can't reason with them. It's almost become a religion that Russia bad, Ukraine good has become a religion to people. Mm-hmm. And that's so how it's affecting me is just, I would say, just my inability to have conversations with people. Yeah. Because I don't have any friends or family directly involved in the conflict. I don't have any friends that are living in the war zone. So that's it for me, I guess, unless you have a question.
I guess the other one is, do you think that Americans will change, us Americans will change how we think of ourselves internationally? If you can do both scenarios, if Ukraine wins, if Russia wins, whatever.
Oh, Yeah, if Russia wins, it will force us to re-examine things. I think that's kind of the thing that does make me nervous, is because if Russia wins decisively and makes Ukraine irrelevant, because I don't believe Russia's going to occupy Ukraine. We won't get into that, but if it wins, like, they take Odessa and the port, they seal it off, and they take all the industrial and the agricultural areas of Ukraine, which it looks like that's where it's going.
Just like X years down the line, right? X years down the line, yeah.
Yeah, and that people, I think heads are going to roll, because in the U.S., I mean metaphorically, that people are going to be, the United States is going to have to look for a fall guy or guys or girls, because got to be, or what's the word, pansexuals, someone's going to have to answer for this. They're going to need. They can't just say, "Oh well, we spent hundreds of billions of dollars and we made Russia stronger, and Ukraine has become a vassal state." So yeah, there's going to be how exactly that plays out. Come on, no one knows that, man.
Yeah.
I'm not smart enough.
Don't be so hard on yourself, Vaun. What do you think, or at least how are you experiencing the conflict?
I mean, I don't really experience. I mean, I could say higher prices and stuff, gas, inflation, like the economic stuff. I could say that affects me somewhat, because I just worry about it, and I got to kind of make plans to deal with what might happen, as it goes on and the longer it drags on. But I mean, that's probably really the only way it affects me. I mean, the only other thing I'd say really affected me was when I saw some of the videos early on when they were shooting POWs. That kind of pissed me off. I mean, any sympathy I had for Ukraine at that point was kind of gone, because it's like, I'm not saying Russians didn't do it or don't do it or haven't done it, but if you're going to advertise it, then fuck you. You get what you get.
It's pretty dark, yeah. And JS will be right back. So he just told us he'll be back in a moment. Dan, Vaun, also, do you think that the U.S. is kind of facing a reckoning, so to speak, internationally, based on the outcome of this conflict?
Yeah, I'm not going to say that Ukraine could win, because that was just not going to happen. But the longer it lasts, the worse it's going to be for the West. And in some ways, I look at that as
us,
positive.
Right? As Americans, though. Well,
I mean, if it hurts America to the point where change is done, then that's good. I mean, it's going to suck, but, ain't nothing good going to be easy. So, I mean, it's kind of like a gamble. That's the way I look at it. I'm gambling that this war is going to force things to change in other parts of the world and things to be dealt with. That's, so I, in a way, the longer it drags out, the more chance that has to happen in the West. And the West has to be punished. And I don't say that like I'm wanting them punished. They have to be punished for what they've gotten involved in, and they have to suffer the consequences for what they've gotten involved in. And I'm gambling that at the end of that, I'm going to be in a better position as an American and as a human being. Even if it's a horrible, rough 10 years or whatever, I think it will work out in the end. But that just depends on how hard-headed people want to be about it.
Yeah, can I ask a bit of a sensitive question? Do you have children, Vaun?
Yeah.
So do you think if things become worse here, would that affect them?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, their futures?
Oh, yeah. I mean, we talk about stuff like that, but it's like, it's a family unit. We got to stick together and figure it out. But I mean, I don't know how bad it could get. I mean, you could have riots and food shortages and stuff like that going on, and just discontent with the war and all the money wasted. I mean, that shit pisses people off. I mean, I'm a blue collar guy, and I every day I talk to blue collar people of every race, and even if we don't agree on everything, we all agree that they're wasting a fuck ton of money, and it could be better spent here or not spent at all. And it don't matter what color you are. I mean, yeah, there's obviously there's white liberal pieces of shit, just like there's black or Hispanic or Asian pieces of shit that are liberals too. But those people, there's just as many conservative or traditional people. They don't like this shit.
Yeah, there's actually one thing. If we are like following the idea of like we're broadcasting to an international audience, right? We need to kind of explain what liberal or left versus conservative means in the U.S.
Yeah, like liberal. When I say liberal, I'm talking about a woke person who, believes in all the politically correct ideology, buys into the entire LGBT agenda. Not that I'm saying anything bad about those people, but obviously
But there are political narratives that are
there's
associated.
evil agendas entwined inside of what people do in their own personal lives. And,
Even if they personally are not.
yeah, I mean, there's plenty of people that are gay that aren't doing that stuff, and there's plenty of people that are. But I mean, there's just like with this issue with the transgender stuff. People want to get all nervous about it. There's transgender people out there that will flat out tell you to your face, "I'm a transgender drag queen. Your kids don't have any fucking business at my show. And if you want to bring your kids to my show, I have a question about what kind of person you are."
Yeah.
So, I mean, if a transgender person that does drag shows knows it's wrong, I know it's wrong. We obviously don't agree on anything other than that. I mean, there's a lot of that stuff too. There's people that are completely and totally polarized, but there's little things that they'll agree on. And that's another thing that needs to be worked on in America to get change is people need to understand, like, yeah, you may have this opinion and I may have this opinion, but these three things right here are things we both agree on. So let's get that done. I mean, stuff like that, but it's a hard road to do it.
And
you got a lot of people that are against those interests,
Yeah. And actually we will be getting on that too. So you'll have a good time, Vaun, I promise. Dan, though, this is going to be a very interesting question because you live in Russia.
Yeah.
So
yeah, this entire time I've been thinking about what I'm going to say because how the war affects me directly, and a lot of people will probably be shocked, but the sanctions that the West put on Russia have affected me insanely because I can't use my Visa card here in Russia. I can't make my life. I was planning to come to Russia before the conflict. So you don't really plan for, hey, I might need another form of buying things in Russia. I can't mail things to America. So they kind of, the West has cut off everybody whose citizen lives in Russia immediately. Like they cut themselves off even from their own citizens living in Russia. And I think that's one way it affects me. But another way is I'm trying to make my life here in Russia. So if I have friends in America, which now know that I'm living in Russia, man, the hate that I get, and even as a veteran, a lot of my veteran friends have called me a traitor. They have called me like a Nazi. And these guys, some of these guys I've been in trenches with, straight up trenches. So it's unbelievable that they've been so brainwashed to call a friend who's has the same decorations as them a Nazi, a communist, which contradicts itself, a traitor. So that's how it affected me directly. The sanctions affected me, and just the hate you get from the public in America if you have an opinion that's not pro-Ukrainian, because you have to be bleeding yellow and blue or else you're a Russian to the American public now. It makes no sense. You can have no opinion, and now people like JS said, it's like that moment where you don't wear a mask. Now you want people to die. The people are programmed now, black and white. So it affects me because it breaks my heart as an American that people could be that heartless. And now we'll get into how it will affect me after. If Russia wins, it affects me in a positive way because I plan on making my life in Russia. I believe that if they win, it will cancel out a lot of things because I don't care. I hope they rewrite the history books and they show all the bad things the Ukrainians did, and I can live in peace here in Siberia. And I won't have to worry about anybody's opinions. Hopefully some sanctions kind of ease off. But in the other universe where Ukraine wins, it will be spiral America down this rabbit hole where they will think it's okay to continue involving themselves in stupid things like this. It will justify that, look, we did the right thing, we beat them. And it will just put us in a trajectory for evilness. And that's why it's so strange that I want Russia to win, because it's a bad thing to get involved and continue to get involved in things. as an Afghanistan war veteran, we lost that war after 20 years, and it brought shame to me. And I know a lot of my friends committed suicide because they saw that their hard work meant nothing. So that if Russia wins now, it will wake people up because we didn't throw bodies at the problem. We only threw money. It'll make people say, let's stop throwing money. Sadly, Afghanistan didn't wake people up in sending bodies, but it's like a double-edged sword. Everything, no matter who wins, there will be pros and cons. But I think that the best scenario is a Russian victory because it'll wake people up, stop sending money to problems. And that's all I have to say about that.
No, that's really good because you also got back to Vaughn's point about how there's no really good ending to this. If Russia ends up coming out on top, America, us here, we're gonna have to ask some very difficult questions, go through some very difficult times. If America ends up on top in this conflict and Russia has to settle or do whatever, one, it either ends a nuclear war and this doesn't matter, or probably the more likely option, if it ends up settling, America, as you said, will then realize, okay, look, we did actually win. All this BS, all this money, all this shit we threw at the problem will solve these kinds of problems. And then they'll continue pressing further. Maybe they'll do Taiwan. Maybe they'll do something stupid in the Middle East again, right?
It'll encourage them to think, hey, we beat Russia, we could beat China. We could beat India, or whoever comes along, we can beat them.
And that's not
without any consideration of what's going to happen down the road or what they got to act. Because I mean, think about it. There's no way in hell they were thinking that they were going to run out of 155 shells when they started giving them to Ukraine.
Mm-hmm.
There's no
javelins.
way.
Or javelins.
Yeah, I mean, that's what's like. That's one thing. Like we were talking about before. I don't want to get on it, but the ammo thing is just. I mean, it's so short-sighted. I mean, like I said a long time ago, the United States has been living off the Cold War stockpiles forever, and it's finally running out. I mean, we've been replacing stuff, obviously, but obviously not at the same rate. But
not the same scale.
Everything we've got going right now is all shit we probably built back in the 80s and 90s, and minus the stuff we upgrade. But I mean, that's the problem. If the United States wins, then these idiots are going to think they can beat everybody, and they can half-ass it like they've been doing.
Well,
like Rumsfeld said, you go to war with the army you got. Oh, sorry, you had to ride a Humvee with plastic doors and suck an IED. I mean, that kind of bullshit.
No way that was
real. People off.
Am I just that young and am I that young and stupid? Plastic doors? What?
No, they didn't. Yeah. They didn't send the armor over. The Humvees went over unarmored.
Yeah, they had
plastic.
It's like a plasticky canvas.
Like the plexiglass.
No, it was like fabric, like a fabric canvas.
Well, they're meant to have.
It was like a zipper window or Velcro window.
Well, they're meant to have armored plating put in it, but they didn't. They shipped the Humvees. Oh, well, you can explain the details, Vaun.
Well, I mean,
you and Dan were in them, so
they were supposed to be purchased, and they hadn't been purchased, or there weren't enough of them in inventory, and they weren't, that kind of thing. Like, we were going to up armor the Humvees, but then something else came along, so they didn't spend the money on it, and then the war started, and then they like JS said, they sent over what they got, then the armor followed later on. But how many hundreds of guys were killed and wounded before they got that shit right?
It would be like sending over the flak vest without the ceramic plate.
Yeah. Here's your plate carrier with no plate.
Yeah.
It's Vietnam style.
Yeah. Or like a flak jacket and tell you it's body armor.
Right.
Yeah.
So I don't mean to laugh. I'm just saying how sick it is.
Yeah. No, I understand.
But what Dan said about it, I kind of got scared when you said that in a way, like it, or just like chills, because if the United States, if Ukraine wins, the United States is going to feel validated in this, and you're absolutely right. They are just going to keep going and go. I mean, look at that. What do they call him? A hemorrhoid with a mustache guy? If Bolton.
Oh yeah.
There's a lot of people that hey, it wasn't my meme. Somebody else said it. But there's a lot of people that think like him. These people, I don't want to get all supernatural, but some of these people I think are literally evil. These people enjoy this shit.
I mean, like the guy like Bolton just pisses me off because and it's not like service is the ultimate thing, but it's like, as motherfucker, as hard up as you are for a fucking starting wars, you ain't never fucking served one fucking day in the service. You ain't never done one fucking day, but you're so hardcore to fucking start a war every other fucking minute. And that just pisses me off. It's like, I understand we have interests and stuff, and we should protect our interests, and we have rivalries and shit. That motherfucker's just got a hard on for war, and it's just,
Yeah.
It's like, dude, you ain't never been there, but you sure as hell like sending motherfuckers every chance you get.
Yeah, there's a saying goes, foolish men seek war, strong men are ready for war, and wise men avoid it. Kind of to JS's point, maybe they're evil, right? Maybe they're just straight up evil, and I know there are people in the world who are evil. That's a fact of life. There are people who are just objectively bad and wish only the best for themselves. But we can't dismiss the fact that the people in charge of us, right? The people who we have as American citizens, we sit in this weird technicality of we gave them, right, the power to serve us. And we've endowed them with this ability to serve us. And then they immediately betray everything we suppose is the right thing to do. And then we're just supposed to be okay with it.
But it's every time. And I think I think America is unique in that it's probably the only country in the world that has allowed their government this long under the false idea of democracy. I think we're unique in that we get lied to every 4 years. Every 4 years we get lied to, but we make fun of other countries who say they're so corrupt, but we allow this every 4 years. As a Mexican American in Mexico, we have a joke. Say we know who the next president will be when the president right now is being elected. We know 6 years in advance because we vote every 6 years, and we make a joke out of it. But in America, it's so unusually corrupt that we don't only have to worry about presidents. We have to worry about senators and congressmen, and we have this institutionalized. America is boom, 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 boom. Thousands of motherfuckers we have to worry about, and they're all corrupt. And we all say, "Oh, it's democracy," but we get lied to every time.
And the thing is we have all these fucking guns, and we let it go. I mean, the whole reason for us to have the guns is to not put up with the shit. And like you said, we let it go on for so long. But I mean, I'm not advocating that. I'm just saying it's like we have this power literally in our closets. And we still let these motherfuckers walk all over us and do it. It's like,
you mean under our bed?
Maybe we'll give them one more chance to be good, so we don't have to get out the boomstick. I mean,
you've hit it right on the head. We'll give them one more chance. That's the perfect way that a lot of people I know they'll look at it. It's look. I know they did this evil thing. Like we can touch on this like really precise thing a lot of people are not going to know about internationally. There's this organization called the ATF. They are dickbags. They basically are doing everything within their illegal power to lower the rate in which gun ownership in America is happening, right? They want to lower the gun ownership rate. It's a government organization.
One of the ways they do that is by terrorizing people who do own guns.
Yeah.
Right, and that's what I was going to get at. So there's many stories of, whether it be them shooting people's dogs because the dog was barking, or Waco or Ruby Ridge, little things like that. But you also get things like the recent ban on pistol braces. And if you're an international person asking what that is, what is a pistol brace? How do you brace a pistol? Well, in the U.S., we can't ban guns, so we ban certain type of guns, to which then other companies will come and say, no, see, this rifle that we made shorter is actually a pistol, so you can't ban this. And then the ATF is like, okay, well, we got to find a way to ban this now. So then they recently banned this thing called a pistol brace. It's basically a butt stock, but you can't say that, and I'm not saying that legally because it's not.
Yeah.
And now, if this ban goes through, right, and if it is fully accepted, 40 million Americans will overnight become felons. Felony is the highest level of crime in the United States.
Yeah, you can lose your rights over felonies.
Yeah.
Depending on what the felony is in the right. You can lose voting rights, gun ownership rights.
Right. And to the point being, right, we always say, "Oh, well, it's not that bad. We'll bring the guns out when the big tyranny starts, you know? When the movie level tyranny starts, right? Checkpoints in the streets, soldiers kicking down our doors." But no one
Red
really
Dawn.
knows. Yeah. No, honestly. Red Dawn, but like at home. What's a good, I mean, 1984, right? People are like, that's when people think the guns come out, but that's not when the guns come out, unfortunately, every single time in history.
Oh, another thing people may not know that are outside the country, the guns have come out. Because the other day, a Republican congresswoman, a council member, was assassinated in, I believe, New York or New Jersey.
Oh,
And she won an election that was a shock win for the Republicans. And she was in her SUV and was shot to death. And no one knows why. She's a really good lady. Apparently has no background that would be suspect or any issues like that. She was like a church lady that helped refugees and shit like that. So some people are saying it's a political assassination.
Yeah, wrong politics.
So, I mean, there's stuff like that going on. I mean, you got a Republican down in New Mexico, Arizona that shot up a bunch of Democrat houses to scare them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, there's already gunplay going on. It's just not like
it's not the movie.
Something
not
like shit.
movie. Yeah.
Well, I got a question that goes for everybody about, do you believe, like, this is my theory, is I believe that one of the reasons that the, quote unquote guns haven't come out. And for those international viewers, the right to keep and bear arms is enshrined in our Constitution. Like, unlike most countries, the United States doesn't believe, or at least the founding fathers of the United States, our rights are not given to us by the government. None of our rights come from the government. The government only exists to protect our rights. So, because the theory was that if a government can give a right, it can take it away. So now that's the theory. I'm not saying that works in practice, but that's the difference from what I've seen from other countries where the government is like giving you a right, so they can just vote to take it away.
I was going to say, like President Obama said, he viewed the Constitution as a negative Bill of Rights because it restricts what the government is allowed to do against the people. So he viewed it as a negative because it limits the government's power, whereas most reasonable, normal people would say that's a good thing that it limits the government's power. But that's a viewpoint. That just shows you his viewpoint on what government should do versus normal people's viewpoint.
And that is a good way, because earlier you asked what's the difference between a liberal or a conservative. A liberal would have that view that they want.
So the very basic description is a liberal in the United States would just generally support policies that encourage larger government. By larger government, that would be
social programs,
more spending on government infrastructure policies, etc.
Oversight,
bureaucracy. Yeah. And there are good things that can come from bigger government, right? Some social programs will absolutely help some people. That's not something that we're ignorant of. It's just the system
Alan,
we're in.
at the same time, it destroys a sense of natural community, which is organic, because everybody just says, "Well, the government will take care of it."
Yeah, that's the point I was getting at. Because no, it's a fantastic point, because that's what I was going to get at. There is benefits that can come from it, but at this point, if it was implemented, exactly what JS said would follow, because we have social policies in play already. I can sign up for Social Security benefits, lie on the form. Now, I mean, of course, I said it out loud on the internet, so now I couldn't, but in theory, someone could, and then just receive hundreds of dollars per week, per 2 weeks, per month, thousands of dollars a month for a claimed thing about themselves, right? Maybe a disability, maybe taking care of children as a single mother or something like that. And then you just don't have to work, because subsidies will cover for their education. Subsidies will cover for your groceries, and then you'll just be receiving Social Security benefits for whatever claimed slight you've got. And that's the American problem. We just throw money at the problem.
And then we don't really enforce any kind of consequences for fraud, because every year there's tons of stories about billions in fraud in Medicare or whatever. And, once in a while some doctor gets busted, but, all those programs.
Did you cover the conservative side?
Huh?